All right, welcome collectors to another episode of Untold Civil War Curiosities. We have a bunch of really cool items coming into the shop this week, and I want to just mention, if you see anything you like, please don't be afraid to email me or message me on Facebook and or Instagram right away, or even comment on this video if you like. But to be fair, a lot of this stuff gets sold even before I can edit and upload these videos. So if you're waiting for these videos, you might miss out. So it's best to follow me on social media to stay up to date with everything on Facebook and Instagram. The links will be in the description. And that way you can find out what's coming into the shop right away, and you can put in your bids. You can message me and tell me what you want. In fact, I've already sold 2 images, so you're not going to be able to see them. They were great images. One was a gem tintype of a Union soldier wearing his Puritan and ham hat, a hat known as Ugly as the Devil from Ron Field's article in Military Images magazine, and also another image of a Second Lieutenant Myrick, I believe, of the 59th New York. There was a beautiful image of him with the American flag draped behind him. Those 2 images sold right away, even before I could get them here for this video, as hard as I try. However, rest assured, we've still got plenty of images here to talk about, plenty of new stuff in the shop to talk about. So let's get right into it. Before we do that, what am I famous for? My Civil War whiskey tasting. And I just want to thank my aunt for getting me this wonderful glass here. We the people, we're drinking some scotch today. And what more do you want to do on your day off, as I am today, than drink scotch and talk about Civil War relics and Civil War history? First things first, I want to thank Mark Maritato, the famous Civil War artist. I actually had him on the podcast. That episode should be coming out, if it's not out already by the time I air this Untold Civil War Curiosities episode. He is a Civil War artist. If you collect Civil War art, or if you enjoy looking at Civil War art, if you have bought Civil War prints, you have definitely run across his work, whether you knew it or not. He is one of the leading artists in the whole realm of Civil War on canvas, if you will. And I had a wonderful interview with him. Wonderful gentleman. I would definitely recommend that you go check out his website. And after the interview, he didn't have to do this, but he did. And I just want to give him a quick shout out and just show you guys an example of his work. Because I'm in law enforcement, he sent this to me, which is a print he did of the Metropolitan Police during the draft riots in New York City in 1863. Now, I know it's a little big for the camera here, but you can just look at the detail in that. I love that you see the destroyed drugstore in the background, and you know that Metropolitan Police officer quickly went to work to settle the draft riots and those guys who were looting and pillaging downtown New York City, around the 5 Points area, and up along 5th Avenue. And here he is, New York City cop, putting in the work. And in fact, from what I understand, the person who posed, that he posed for this image, or modeled for this image when he was painting this image, was actually a reenactor friend of his who was a retired New York City cop. So I just think that is just so cool. Thank you, Mark Maritato, for sending this image in, this print. I am definitely going to hang this up somewhere as a prominent display for all those who come visit to see your work, and the testimony to all those officers who served in the past and served in law enforcement even today. So it's great to see something like this. Thank you. I'll leave a link in the description for anyone who wants to see more of his work. He does some great stuff. Some of the popular stuff I've seen is on the Irish Brigade, and he's even got some great images of the Gettysburg campaign. So I know there's a lot of Gettysburg lovers out there. Now let's put this to the side. Real quick here, while I was in Chicago last week. I went there for the Civil War show, which was absolutely fantastic. We saw some really amazing images, really amazing artifacts, including rifles, muskets, leather items, handguns. It was something to behold. I just love going to these Civil War shows, and I will be releasing a video of my walkthrough, essentially, of the Chicago Civil War show. That seems to be something that has been very popular lately. So that will be coming out soon. I did not make any major purchases there, but I'll let you know what I got. I bumped into this gentleman, Dale Thomason. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but I've said, when I get asked all the time about how I find untold Civil War stories, I say, well, I do the research, I find some of these minuscule details of something, and guess what? When you find those details and start researching, there's always one expert who was obsessed with that topic, be it the Hunley, be it camels in the Civil War, be it Civil War photography, you name it. Well, right here we have the book about Flagstaff toppers of the American Civil War. So Untold Civil War is always out there, and he was kind enough to sign the book for me, as you can see. And in here, I mean, this is just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, look at all this. This is a great reference guide if you're interested in collecting Civil War relics, specifically Flagstaff toppers. I'll put it plainly. Flagstaff topper, if you can find one, that's something you want in your Civil War collection, but you don't want to be without the reference guide here, this reference book, because you want to make sure that what you're buying is authentic to the period and was, of course, used during the Civil War. That just makes it all more that fascinating. But this is how you find Untold Civil War. You go to these locations, you go to these shows, you see these artifacts, you see these books, you meet the authors, and you meet the experts, and you find these stories, and that's what makes this so fantastic. So I actually got that for myself while I was there. Moving on, I want to say while I was at the Chicago Civil War show, I was actually staying with a good friend of the show, Detective Girardi, Robert Girardi, a former homicide detective of the Chicago Police Department. He is a true Civil War historian. He's done plenty of research. He's written several books. He's a true wealth of knowledge and a great Civil War collector. And he was very kind to me while I was there. I got to stay with him, and I got to visit what he calls Camp Girardi, which is his basement library, which has all his relics there, as well as a huge reference library. Video coming on that shortly. It's a full tour of his library, a little secret library, if you will, a private library, private Civil War library. It was fantastic. Without a doubt, it is definitely the envy of any Civil War buff or fan that wants to build something like this in their basement if they can convince their wives, girlfriends to agree to it. But it was fantastic that he hosted me there. He gave me a whole Civil War Chicago tour, if you will. And all of that is going to be put on the YouTube channel. And I really want to reach out and thank him, because that was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had while putting out this podcast and traveling for this podcast. And while I was there, he gave me these two books here, Civil War Hard Images, Volume 1 and Volume 2. As you can see, there's the Confederate and the Union volume. These are great reference guides if you want to get serious about collecting Civil War images. If you open it up right here, we'll just take one here, for example. When you open up one right here, it really has these beautiful quality images in here. And if you want, it'll give you the ratings here about the clarity of the image, the condition. It'll give you a description of what you're looking at. If it's a tin type, an ambro type, the type of firearms that are featured in the image. And so if you're collecting images, this is a great guide to actually look to get an understanding of the material culture of what you're collecting and what you're looking at. Now, being a good detective as he is, he gave me an open case. Basically, he gave me Volume 1 and Volume 2, which I'm very appreciative, and I thank him very much. I understand there is a Volume 3 out there. So if anyone knows the location of a Volume 3 and is willing to let it go, please let me know, because I am looking to complete this collection for my own library. Another really cool thing that Robert Girardi handed over to the podcast is this great print here. Who isn't a fan of Civil War Corps badges? Who doesn't want a quick reference guide to Civil War Corps badges? Here you have them all laid out. And these great prints, I mean, you can have them framed up, put on your wall in your little Civil War den, and when you're doing research and you want to do a quick look to find out what corps had what corps badge, you can quickly look at this and easily identify what corps you're looking at. This is a great thing to have. It's also appealing to the eye, and it's going up on the website. I have several copies here. I'm going to keep one for myself, and I mean, this is great stuff. This is great if you're doing research, you want a quick guide, you want something that gives your home office a little more Civil War flair. This is something you want. Going up on the website. Message me if you want a copy, and we'll work something out. All right, here we are. We've come down to some of the images. Some of these images are going to end up on the website. Some of them are going to end up in my private collection. And some of them are going to end up in my private collection for a short time and then probably put on the website. Regardless, go ahead and message me if you find any of these images interesting, or if you want to make a deal. I'll tell you this, I collect images of the 79th New York or the 69th New York. The 69th New York is my alma mater. I've served, that unit is still continuing to serve, and I served in that unit as an Army National Guardsman. The 79th New York, no longer in existence, but was known as the 79th New York Highlanders. And I have a thing for the Highlanders. I think they were a great outfit. So if you have any images that are related to the 79th New York Highlanders or the 69th New York, let me know. Maybe we can make a deal. Most probably, I will do everything in my power to make a deal if you've got some 79th New York Highlander images. That being said, let's look at what we've got here. To dive into the images, here's an image that I got at the Civil War Chicago show. It's identified to a Harry Hardy. Now, I spoke to the dealer, wonderful man, very friendly. Now, he has done some research and has found a Harry Hardy in the 79th New York. I am not going to sit here and tell you that this is, in fact, a 79th New York Highlander that you're looking at. There's going to have to be more research done. It's a bit of a research project. So I'm going to have this in my collection. I'm going to keep researching. Depending on what I find, I have a very niche collection. If this is a 79th New York Highlander, I'll probably keep it for my collection. If I find out this is a different Harry Hardy, you have a chance to own a CDV of a Union officer from a different regiment. And I will keep you updated on that, whether this is going on the website, whether I find out he's a Highlander. Nice little research project here. Not an image, but also donated to the show to raise money, is this Medal of GAR Women's Relief Corps. So this is actually the female auxiliary to the GAR. The GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic, was the veteran organization. Think of the American Legion or the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW. The GAR was the veteran organization for Civil War veterans, and this would have been the women's auxiliary group attached to the GAR that would have assisted them. It would have been made up of many of the wives or widows, maybe, of Civil War veterans, and they would have worn this on their dresses during parades or during certain functions. So here's a great chance to own a GAR Women's Relief Corps medal dated 1900. as you can see. It's actually a beautiful medal, great piece of history. You know, you don't find these things very often. Here's a really fun image of a Union soldier. Great backdrop there, but he's also holding a book. And if you zoom into the book, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see the word Army written on the book. So he might be holding Army regulations, he might be holding a book on the history of the Army, but there is no doubt that he is showing off his allegiance to the Army here, showing his love for either the history of the Army and or a stickler for regulation. Great image here. You've got a nice camp scene. You can see it right in the corner. There appears to be a cannon. Great image here. Unidentified. Right there, Washington, D.C. back mark. So you can imagine that this soldier came into Washington, D.C. During the rebellion, got his picture taken there to send back home to his loved ones, send his likeness to his loved ones so that they wouldn't forget him as he went on the grand adventure that was the American Civil War to go see the elephant. Now here's an interesting image coming out of Washington, D.C. as well. And what's very interesting is his shoes. He's wearing summer canvas shoes that were not typically issued to Union soldiers. It's quite unique. It's not something you find. Very interesting looking shoes. Only certain units had them. If you want something in your collection that is unique uniform item, here's your chance to own something that's pretty darn unique in my opinion. Sorry there, I'm knocking some images out of the way. But speaking of unique uniform items, here is an officer with a Pascal hat. Now, he is a cavalry officer, and the Pascal hat was issued to several Pennsylvania cavalry outfits and was featured in the articles in Military Images magazine known as Ugly as the Devil. It is a pretty ugly looking hat. That being said, several units were issued with this hat. One of them is Rush's Lancers. I don't know if he is a member of the 6th Pennsylvania Rush's Lancers. That remains to be investigated. Philadelphia backmark here. Wonderful image of a Union cavalry officer with a unique hat. I get a lot of questions about Confederate images. Well, here you go, guys. I finally do have a Confederate image here for sale. This is a Confederate general from North Carolina. I believe his name is Hoke, as you can see there. H-O-K-E, I believe. Back mark here is going to be Baltimore. Simple image, but if you are a North Carolina collector, if you collect Confederate cartes de visite, then this is an image for you. North Carolina general in uniform. What's not to like? This image I call Close But No Cigar. As you can see, very close on his pants, he does seem to have a checkered pattern on his pants. Now, being a 79th New York Highlander collector, I thought he might actually be a New York Highlander, but alas, I believe those are not plaid trousers. Those are in fact just checkered pattern in the stitching. Still, regardless, it is an awesome image, and it is a great example of a Brady image. So this was taken in Brady's studio, and it has his back mark on there. And here's a Union soldier trying to get his likeness to show off his martial flair before he goes to see the elephant. And if you want to own a great example of a Brady image, a Brady portrait, this is what you want in your collection. Unique uniforms. Here we have an awesome Zouave, an American Zouave, taken in PA, Pennsylvania. What's great about the Zouaves, I always think back to our good friend, Sir Arthur Fremantle, famous from the movie Gettysburg. He wrote his diary traveling through the South and analyzing the Civil War, meeting all the top brass of the Confederacy. During his exploits, he came across the bodies of Union Zouaves, I believe, and he does state that their uniform was not truly great examples of the French Zouave. They were poor knockoffs, if you will. That being said, I think he looks great. This is a great image of a Zouave in all his splendor from Pennsylvania. So again, this might sit in my collection for a little bit before I decide selling it, because what a unique uniform. If you are a collector of Civil War firearms, this is a great hard image of a Civil War soldier carrying a pepper box pistol. Now, the pepper box pistol, unlike a Colt revolver, had multiple barrels that would spin as you pulled the hammer back and then fired. It was one of the most popular firearms before the revolver, Colt revolver, Remington revolver, replaced it in popularity. But you can see many images of Civil War soldiers carrying this, probably as a sort of backup firearm, a secondary firearm, if you will. And here we have a soldier. He's got a badge on his chest, which we cannot identify. He's a corporal. He is wearing a bit of a slouch hat, which makes me think that he's probably from the Western Theater, although I cannot prove that. He does have that Western Theater air about him, and that wonderful pepperbox revolver, that pepperbox pistol. If you're a collector of Civil War firearms, what a great piece to just put the icing on the cake of that collection. Wow, I'm loving this, but as we talk, I've got to take another sip. This is great. Oh yeah, this is great. You gotta love a Civil War whiskey tasting combined with great Civil War artifacts. This is what this is all about. Let's check this one out here. This is a wonderful image of two Civil War Yankee officers. You can imagine these guys getting their commissions together in a regiment and posing together. If you look at the ground does look like dirt, so they're not standing in a studio, they're in the field. I mean, they're probably standing not too far from where their unit is encamped, and they're posing together to send their likeness home. These are two brothers in arms, two officers from the Union Army. This is something that you just really don't see. I mean, this is wonderful. Case is intact, great condition. And again, sometimes you'll find images of one officer, but two together in an outdoor setting. You just don't see stuff like this. So hopefully this is going to go out on the website and hopefully find a new home with someone who can really appreciate the uniqueness of such an image. Now this is what I believe potentially has been coined by Robert Girardi as pard images. And what I mean by that is images of, lower enlisted soldiers, Union or Confederate, just hanging out, and you've got pard images showing Union soldiers or Confederate soldiers. I've only seen Union soldiers. I'm sure there are Confederate images out there, but Union soldiers sharing whiskey, as you see in this picture, Civil War whiskey tasting right here, or sharing cigars, sharing pipes, having a moment to have some time for themselves and kick back, let their hair down. It's such a personal image, and it shows that sense of camaraderie among brothers in arms. Here's a great image with great tinting of two soldiers with some bottle of red eye, some bottle of coffin varnish, depending on how bad that whiskey is. But this is what you want to see. This is the type of image you love to see that really tells the story of the fighting man of the Civil War. All right, last but not least, this one I think is going to sit in my collection for a little bit. Again, I'm always open to offers, especially if you have 79th New York images of 79th New York Highlanders. But if you want to talk about unique, spontaneous, something that really shows the experience of the Civil War soldier, captures the human side of the Civil War soldier. Here, you have a Civil War soldier in high boots carrying a rifle in an outdoor setting. And we know, that the photographer who has set up this studio out in the field to take pictures of soldiers who are at this encampment, wherever it may be, has a long line, and it's going to be a busy day. Because in the corner, you can see that there's somebody waiting in line to stand and get his likeness taken. I think that is something you don't see. That is a Civil War photobomb, an 1800s photobomb. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this. This is unique. You're not going to see this all the time. Absolutely fantastic image. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Untold Civil War Curiosities. Hopefully you saw something you liked, and you can go ahead and message me, Facebook, Instagram, or email me. All of those links, contact information will be put in the description, and hopefully we can work out a deal. Like I said, if you go to my website, you should see some of these uploaded if I get the chance to upload them. If you don't like the prices that you see, that's okay. Email me. I'm willing to negotiate. Maybe we can make a deal on some of these items at least. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I truly appreciate you all for taking the time to watch this video, learn about this hobby, introduce more people to the hobby, and of course, I want to thank all my sponsors who keep this show going. All of these items that are sold, I just want to let you know, go directly into supporting the show. And just to prove that, I want to show you real quick. Yes, probably the most boring thing that you're going to see on screen today, but this is an external hard drive. I cannot make these videos, edit these videos. I cannot make my podcast without hard drives, storage space. It takes a lot of storage to edit these things. And thanks to you all, because of my sponsors, because of my Patreon supporters, because of those of you who have reached out and purchased items from me, I have been able to buy an external hard drive to keep this show going. So thank you very much. Thank you for all you do, guys, to support the show. And please, keep the hobby alive, keep studying Civil War history, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.